morning. Welcome to number 8. Number 8. Zen Mastery. There is nothing in my experience that is not true. If there were anything at all untrue, how could I presume to tell others? How could I presume to guide others? When I affirm my truth, there is no affirming mind, and no affirmed objects. That is why I dare tell people. As for you, obviously there's something not true. That is why you come to someone to find certainty. If you had found truth already, then when would you go off questioning another? However, here I just point out where you're right. If you are not right, I will never tell you that you are. I will never tell you that you are right if you are not right. When you are right and true, then I'll agree with you. Only bet on what's right and true. I see through everyone. If I've seen people, I know whether or not they have any enlightenment or any understanding, just as an expert physician recognizes ailments at a glance, discerning the nature of the illness and whether or not it can be remedied. One who knows all this only after detailed inquiry into the symptoms is a mediocre physician. This is like a story I have quoted on many occasions. Foyan pointed to a hanging screen, whereupon 2 students went and rolled it up. Foyan said, 1 gain, 1 loss. People like you in your state must not say, what gain or loss is there? Some say, 1 went to roll up the screen with understanding. This is gain. 1 went to roll up the screen without understanding. This is loss. If this were so, how could a remedy be possible? Now, if you have not managed to understand clearly, it is because your enlightenment is not true. Like someone ignorant of medicine claiming to be a doctor, you cannot discern when people understand, and you cannot tell when they do not understand. You cannot discern at all whether or not they have any insight. Then how can you help people? How can you teach people? You must examine reality through and through before you can. If you are willing to examine reality through and through, you will not fail to understand. Have you not read how an ancient said, just sit there investigating the truth for 20 or 30 years? If you do not attain understanding, cut off my head and make a piss pail out of it. And Zhao said that. Seekers sometimes say this is right, but when it comes to investigating reality through and through, they change unstably. It is like watching a horse ridden past a window. In a flash, it is gone. One must be like 30 tons of iron, which cannot be pulled forward or pushed back. Only then do you know it's a real thing. People like you stir the minute you're shaken by someone. 1 more push, and you tumble. You should be so perfectly clear that you see your 360 joints and 84,000 pores open up all at once, inside your body and outside in the physical world. Every phenomenon is the ordinary reality. Nothing is not it. Only then will you get it. But professional priests nowadays can only speak after dawdling. If I proceed all at once, they have nothing to cling to, and think they have wasted their time. You people had better not waste this time. Since you're already involved, stabilize and awaken your vital spirit in the effort to find out the truth. Equality. If you talk about equality, nothing surpasses Buddhism. Buddhism alone is most egalitarian. If one says, I understand, you do not, this is not Buddhism. If one says, you understand, I do not. This is not Buddhism either. In the teachings it says, this truth is universally equal, without high or low. This is called unexcelled enlightenment. My perception is equal to yours, and your perception is equal to mine. And yet, an ancient also said, I know everything others know, but others do not know what I know. I think Lin Chi said that. I'm going to write a note. We're going to cross-reference later. Find out that it was Lin Chi. Because I believe Lin Chi said, I wish that everybody knew what I knew. So, why don't they know? Because they harbor high and low. In their minds, they harbor high and low in their minds, and do not rely on enlightened insight. What enlightened inlight. Thus they see the world full of all kinds of crap. What the sage taught is an egalitarian teaching. He said, I get all types of beings to enter nirvana without remainder, whereby I liberate them. I have liberated countless sentient beings in this way, and yet there are really no beings who attain liberation. Is this not an egalitarian teaching? An ancient said, Nirvana is called universal liberation. It takes all in uniformity, without remainder, no matter what type of being, empty or existent, sinking or floating. The supernal being can descend to live on earth. The way of enlightenment is inherently omnipresent. If suddenly the slightest thing is there, one lingers forever on this shore. If there is the slightest left over, that is this shore, the mundane. See, I'm not really reading well. It is also said, in an instant one flows into ideation, which constitutes the root of birth and death. How can you abandon realizations and arbitrarily produce intellectual interpretations? In ancient times, there was an adept who told people, each of you has your inspiration. When you first determined to go journeying, you must have made this determination on account of life and death. Some may have aroused the determination to avoid misery, or because of the pressure of circumstances. In any case, it is called inspiration. And why? To get people to look at their initial inspiration. That is, if your original thought of inspiration has not changed, turning back to it is most powerful. This is the Zen for you to study. If you actually attain it, it is simply clear purity of mind. When you seek out teachers along the way and contemplate day and night, you are simply nurturing this mind. Then, when you have awakened and realized it, you will then see that it had not been lost even before you were inspired. The sage Ashvaghosha said of this, initial enlightenment is itself fundamental enlightenment. Fundamental enlightenment itself is unconscious. The duality of the initial experience and the fundamental reality is called ultimate enlightenment. It is also said, at the time of initial inspiration, one attains true enlightenment, meaning first to realize the fruit, and the 6 perfections and myriad deeds of Buddhas are a matter of ripening. This is why I have you just investigate the initially inspired mind. And my perception is one with yours. Why not understand in this way? Clear eyes. People with clear eyes do not settle complacency into fixed ways. People with clear eyes do not settle complacently into fixed ways. The reason you haven't attained this in everyday life is simply that your eyes are not clear. If your eyes were clear, you'd have attained it. That is why it is said that people with clear eyes are hard to find. As soon as you say, "This is thus and so," that is a complacent fixation. People with clear eyes are not like this. Have you not read how the Shen said to an assembly, "Tonight I will not answer questions. Anyone who asks a question gets a thrashing"? How could anyone without clear eyes comprehend this? Fail in the slightest to comprehend this, and you fall into conceptual thought, which constructs signals. That is why Deschen's normal experience of life was comprehended by only one person, Yantu. Deschen's normal experience of life was comprehended by only one person, Yantu. Therefore I say, you have to have clear eyes before you can attain this. Finding certainty. The original Zen masters are real true friends. Haha. One can only say this much, if you understand. You can have the experience yourself. Then you will have something to act on. If you get involved in rationalizations, comparisons, and verbalizations, then you do not understand and you cannot experience it yourself. When you are going about and doing your chores, do you see that the original Zen masters are real true friends? Since you don't see, when asked about it, you get flustered. Where is the problem? The problem lies in the fact that you are always coming from the midst of conceptual comparisons, and did not personally attain experience. All of you go and sit on benches, close your eyes, and demolish your thinking all the way from the Milky Way above to Hades below, before you can make a statement or two. But when you get to a quiet place, you still don't get the ultimate point. Before your eyes is nothing but things that obstruct people. Lightly questioned, you cannot reach the aim. Right now, let's base the discussion on realities. We mustn't talk at random. For the moment, let me ask you this. When you haven't eaten anything at all for 3 days, can you be active? Certainly you cannot be active. Only after eating something can you be active. If so, it is all food energy. But when you get here, if you want to find suitable people, first it is necessary to see that which is not food energy. Zen should be studied in this way. This alone is called finding certainty. Once you have eaten, that should sustain you as you take this matter up and look into it. But you are not totally ignorant of this matter. Instead, you try to apply it in idleness, discussing right and wrong, focusing on useless things, neither thinking about them nor trying to demolish them. What a pity. It is all misapplication. Do you not realize that as soon as you aim your mind, you are already a generation too late? In an instant, you have flowed into ideation, which forms the root of birth and death. Furthermore, if you don't know, even while physically alive, where will you seek after your material body dissolves? In recent days, there are those who just sit there as they are. At first they are alert, but after a while they doze. 9 out of 10 sit there snoozing. How miserable. If you do not know how to do the inner work, how can you expect to understand by sitting rigidly? This is not the way it is. How can you see? When Dan Jia held up a whisk, Layman Pang held up a hammer. When Dang Jia tossed his whisk down, Layman Pang put his hammer down. The next day, Layman Pang said, "How do you interpret yesterday's case?" And Dan Jia relaxed and reclined. The Layman Pang left. Are these not real knowers? How could How could this admit of your arbitrary explanations, or permit you to add explanatory footnotes? Also, Yantu said, these who cultivate purification must let it come forth from their own hearts in each individual situation, covering the entire universe. How can this be quiet sitting and meditating? My teacher said, when you sleep, study Zen as you sleep. At meals, study Zen as you eat. An ancient also said, when you sit, there is a logic of when you sit. When you stand, there is the logic of when you stand. Have you not read how Tozi asked Choi Wei, can I hear the secret message of Zen? Choi Wei stood and looked around. Taozi said, I don't understand the hidden statement. Please give me another indication. Choi Wei said, you want to get sauced with a second ladle of foul water? Taozi was thereupon enlightened. You people have not attained the experience, so you miss quite a few good things in the course of a day. That is why I say, the original Zen masters are real true friends. The path of the original Zen masters is like the bright sun in the blue sky. Why are there people losing the way? Get an understanding. When you cannot understand, where is your mistake? You do not understand at all, fundamentally not understanding, then you seek understanding. An ancient said, don't abandon this world and cling to the beloved, for if you do so, it'll be even harder to understand. I told you that you fundamentally do not understand. Why not look at it? Why not look at it as when Foyan was journeying to Daizang? He asked him where he was going. Jeez, it's morning time already. I told you that you fundamentally do not understand. Why not look at it as when Foyan was journeying to Daizang? Excuse me, when Foyan was journeying and Daizang asked him where he was going. When Foyan replied that he was journeying, Daizang asked, and do you understand what the journey is for? And Foyan answered, no. Daizang said, if you want to know what the journey is for, the one who does not understand is it. Foyan realized enlightenment from this. I ask you, since he did not understand, then how did he attain? If you must find a way to you must find a way to penetrate before you will know. This is not a matter of forced understanding or all sorts of contrived understanding. Since you basically do not understand, what are you capable of doing? You need to examine attentively. Look to see where the not understanding comes from. Do you want to know? This non-understanding of yours basically comes from nowhere. Since it comes from nowhere, how could this not understanding be? And when you understand, the non-understanding goes nowhere. When you look at it in this way, you may be sure to attaining clarification. As long as you do not know how to be people in the midst of enlightened realities, you can only exercise your minds in the mundane world. If you have never taken a moment to look into this matter, how could you actually understand right away? When someone asks you a question, you talk randomly. This is not a matter that can be handled in this way. In the old days, I once heard an old Mekadent relate that Master Sai Lin saw a seeker coming and said, I do not deny that you could talk about it, but by the time you've gone 2 or 3 steps down the stairs, you're already no longer thus. Better not talk wildly. See how ancients examined from the root how people are to go about things. In Buddhism, no waste is reasonable. Get an understanding of it. Okay, 20 minutes. Yeah, I gotta get ready for work. So we're gonna do short time. Love and light. See you later.